Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first inaugural episode of Talk Gaming, which is what that is right there. I am your host, Lukey Poo, and I have been working on this for a little while, trying to think through the formatting, how I want to do this show, and I finally settled on the idea that we're just going to wing it. We're going to try it and see what works and what doesn't. So let me know what you think of this episode. Of course, down in the comment section below, I read all the comments that get sent straight to my cellular phone device. So really, there's no reason not to leave your feedback. I will see it. Whether or not I'll respond is in the air because there are a lot of comments to go through, but I will try if your comment truly is awesome. But with that said, this isn't the first podcast I've ever done. I've done a podcast previously. It was called the Vault Boy Broadcast. It was talking all about Fallout 4, speculation, news, leaks, all that in the lead up to the game being announced and after it was announced leading up to its release. Upon release, I got the game, played it for about 20 hours, realized it was rubbish, pushed on for another 20 hours, and then I just gave up and played The Witcher 3, which is a far better game, as you guys all know. Let's be real. But after that, I stopped playing, or I stopped doing the podcast because I just didn't really see the point in it. Why would I, Vault Boy Broadcast specific to Fallout? There's no reason for me to really do it. So I just stopped. I stopped and I went to these smaller form factor videos. But after asking you guys all said that you would be interested in seeing an actual longer form podcast. So we're going to try it. Right now, this is not live. I will just say that. This is not live, obviously. You're watching it on YouTube, pre-recorded. That's simply a technical issue, all right? To do it live requires certain gear and stuff that I don't have. If you would like to eventually see it go live while keeping it up to the standard that I want to keep it at, that's just going to take some money. You can always check out my Patreon down below, but by no means feel forced to do that or like I'm begging. I'm simply stating we can't go live right now. Got to get more gear. It's going to take time and money that I currently don't have. So right now it's pre-recorded, but I think that's going to be fine. It seems to be working. You're still watching. So yeah, let's try it. We're going to talk about a few things today. And we're going to be experimenting with sort of the flow and how we do things. No promises as to how this is going to time out or space. I don't know how this first episode is going to time out, but We'll try to have a lengthy discussion. Feel free to go and do something else, open up a game. If you don't feel like you have to watch me blabber for however long this video ends up being, just, have a good time, listen, engage in a discussion with me down in the comment section below, and we can have a good time. But the first thing I want to say is the Christmas season is over. Christmas season is over. It's 2016 is almost over. This is being recorded on December 30th. So tomorrow is the last day of the year. It's weird. The year has flown by. There's been a lot of good games. There's been a lot of fun times throughout the year. I was looking back when I was making that video, by the way, on my game of the year. I was looking through all the games that came out this year because I didn't want to accidentally put in a game from 2015, which I've been known to do in the past. And I didn't realize that Stardew Valley came out early this year, like February of this year. I don't know. That just makes the year seem like it's lasted forever because, Stardew Valley seems like it was forever ago, but that was a great game. Anyway, nonetheless, the year has ended. It didn't seem like there was many AAA title games as there have been in the past. It seems like in the past there's been a lot more, and I think it's all due to Assassin's Creed being absent. Normally, we've got all these big title games that we had this holiday season, and we also have a friggin' Assassin's Creed game. In 2015, we had an Assassin's Creed game, we had a Bethesda game, we had, we just had a ton of different stuff. We had Bloodborne, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. We had all sorts of different games all lining up that were just incredible. And this year, we had some good games. We had Uncharted 4, you had Overwatch, you had friggin' Dishonored 2, you had a lot of good games. You had the Blood and Wine DLC for The Witcher 3, which by itself was basically a new Witcher game. It was incredible. But it just seems like the year was a little lacking in terms of big titles. And I think that probably bodes well for 2017. I think we're going to get a lot of cool stuff this coming year. I'm very optimistic. A new Assassin's Creed game, which hopefully will make up for the rubbish movie and the less than stellar games we've received in the past 3 years. I think that we can expect, of course, God of War, which I can't even express my excitement for that. I'm a huge fan of the God of War games. Dante's Inferno, which is sort of like a God of War, but put in a sort of it's on Xbox 360, but put in this sort of Catholic Christian lore world, and it's so amazing. If you have a 360 and haven't tried it yet, get Dante's Inferno. First 2 acts are phenomenal. The ending really turns rubbish really quickly. It's like they just stopped trying and repeated the same level 10 times. But everything else is amazing. I love that game to death. But what was I saying? God of War. Yes, I love those style games. I love God of War, and I cannot wait for this new God of War. In a recent discussion from the game director, I forget his name, actually said that God of War is still on time and on schedule, despite us hearing nothing, which is good. It's good. Lord knows I can profit off of speculation and drama in the gaming community. I'm going to be honest with you. Of course, it would probably help my channel if God of War were having delays and struggles. I could put a video out on it and get a bunch of views, but I'm just happy that I'm going to get the game on time. On time still being late 2017 probably, but nonetheless, I'm pumped. Other games coming out in 2017. Let me just say, The Last of Us Part 2, it's not coming out in 2017. There's just no way. They take like 3 years to make each game. Their entire team was working on Uncharted 4 at Naughty Dog. And they just said that they were working on this sort of trailer thing. They pitched this trailer, they pitched that to Ashley Johnson 2 years ago. Initially, they pitched the idea for The Last of Us Part 2. Niel Druckmann did back all the way when they pitched the Left Behind DLC. So this has been in the works for a long time. And only now are they really working on the game. So don't expect it in 2017. Expect it 2018, 2019. Probably late 2018, if I'm going to be honest. But, I mean, don't expect it in 2017. But that leads me to Niel Druckmann. Let's talk about Niel Druckmann, because I love talking about Niel Druckmann. I am wildly impressed by this individual. This man right here. I've been doing a lot of reading on interviews of Niel Druckmann. And the reason I was doing this was because I wanted to look into how this dude was able to create such incredible games seemingly on his first try. He started out working as an intern at Naughty Dog in the programming department. Then he got brought on after a few months as an actual gaming programmer. Then he worked his way up. He worked on led a group of programmers. Then he worked his way up and up and up until he was asked to help lead, I believe it was Uncharted 2. And then they said, you did a great job with Uncharted 2. That game was really good and really popular. So why don't you go ahead and pitch us something, pitch us an idea. And he said, okay, I have this idea for a zombie game. And they're like, oh, great. That's been done before, which not a lot of people give him credit for. Zombie games have been done to death and back. Zombie games are so frequent and prominent in the gaming community and gaming industry as a whole. To have one stand out is incredibly rare. And his approach was, don't just make it about hacking and slashing zombies. Make something that's actually emotional and use this sort of dangerous, compelling, dramatic world to your advantage. So let's do it. I have these characters I'm going to work on. We're going to cast some great actors and we're going to do it. And sure enough, he did it. Now, this is an example of an individual who clearly has some sort of talent, some sort of knack for story, for writing, for game development, whatever it is. He's the creative director for these games. So don't mistake him as like the guy that's heading up all of the game mechanics, all of that. That's not what's happening. What's happening is he's the guy in charge of the creative side. He thinks up the story. He works on the motion capture. He works on the setting, the mood of the world, the art. He doesn't work on like the shooting mechanics. He doesn't really do that, but he still has an incredibly important job. One might argue it's the most important job because without him doing it well, all the other stuff crumbles. But really, it's a co-directing job because you need the gameplay and you need the story. But nonetheless, to head up a AAA studio and to have your first project become what many people have argued is the greatest game ever made in terms of narrative storytelling in the gaming genre, it's impressive. It's incredibly impressive. Many people have spent their entire lives and careers working to achieve what this guy has done on his first attempt. Now, don't think that he was expecting it to be this wild success. Interviews, I believe it was this one. I'm not going to look through for the exact quote because that's going to burn up time that would lead to awkward pauses like this one. But in an interview that he gave, he actually said that he and the team at Naughty Dog expected The Last of Us to essentially destroy the studio. They approved the project. They got the green light from the head honchos way up in the studio, and then they started working on the game. And as the game progressed, they're like, oh, I'm not so sure if this is working. Like, the emotional pieces are there, but the game just doesn't seem fun, which is something we're going to talk about in a minute as well, the idea of fun in video games. But they were like, this doesn't seem really enjoyable. Like, sure, there's an emotional side to this, but it doesn't seem like something that people are going to want to go back to time and again, hour after hour, and keep playing. And my goodness, were they wrong. My goodness. And they said that only up to about 2 months before launch did they start to feel like, oh, well, I think this could work. I think this actually could work, which is just mind-blowing to think that they thought that The Last of Us was going to ruin their studio. If anything, it saved it and made it anything. It made it one of the top developers in the world, in the entire industry, in the history of the industry. But it's just surprising to hear that they had so little faith in it while they were working on it. But as I've done a lot of stuff in theater, for instance, so I've done a lot of projects. I've worked on videos for hours and hours and hours, and you spend so much time working on it. Think of a play. You got a play you typically rehearse for like 7 weeks, and you're working on this project for months on end. Typically from the time that you get cast to the time of the opening performance. It could be 6 months. It could be a year. I've already been cast in a show that I'm doing next September. That's crazy. But that's just how it works. So when you're working on something that's on a long-term schedule like that, it's very easy to kind of get blinders on and to forget the grand picture and to be unable to see it because you've been in the nitty-gritty doing all this crap for so long that it doesn't actually affect you the same way it's going to affect just a person sitting in their living room playing the video game for the first time. You've watched this cutscene of Sarah dying in her father's arms in the first 10 minutes of the game 1,000 times, working on the sound, working on the graphics. Oh, well, no, he kind of tilted his chin upward there. I need it tilted down, opposite. No, I need to see his eyes after all. Okay, do that. And they do that hundreds of iterations to get it really perfected. So you're completely numb to the emotional effect of it, and you've completely, you just don't see it. Niel Druckmann actually said that he's going to put off playing The Last of Us for another couple years, and then he's going to go back to it so that he can actually appreciate it. Because when you've been working on something for so long, it's very easy to lose sight of what the grand kind of picture is. But I think that The Last of Us really is probably the most, in terms of narrative storytelling, in terms of making me feel connected to characters, it's probably the most incredible thing I've ever seen. And I think it says something about where the genre and where gaming could potentially go. We see all over the place. Hollywood is starting to sort of crumble. It's starting to, okay, it's not looking great. Rogue One is restoring some people's faith in it. I don't think it's really doing that. Sure, it's a good Star Wars movie. It's just all sequels now. There's nothing really original coming out of Hollywood that people are truly interested in. But in the gaming community, The Last of Us wasn't a sequel. It was just a standalone title. And it found amazing success because it told a story that was engaging and got people connected. And that's something that movies just don't really do that well anymore. Especially when you have the alternative of gaming to do that. There's really, movies, you spend $10 going to the movies, you see something that's really cool, pretty, that lasts 2 hours. Then you go home and what do? You go and you put in Bloodborne and you play a game, or you go and you play Uncharted 4 or The Last of Us Remastered, and you try to feel some sort of connection to these characters that you can spend 200-300 hours with. If you're talking The Witcher 3, maybe 20, 25 if you're talking The Last of Us with the DLC. Like, that's way more engaging. That's way more bang for your buck. That's way more everything. So, I don't know. I think entertainment in general is probably moving more towards video games than it is to big budget films, if you ask me. I'm not used to these long form discussions. I used to be, but I'm not anymore. But we'll practice. We'll get there. But with all that said, I think that there's something about Niel Druckmann which is very unique, and it's an understanding of the concept of fun in video games, which is something I came across while reading these articles about him. I think people generally would say that video games are supposed to be fun, right? They're supposed to be fun, whatever that is. And it got me thinking, well, what is a fun video game? When I've been playing Bloodborne for the past however many weeks, I would rarely say it was like just holler off the rooftops fun. Like, it wasn't just, this is so much fun, I'm having a great time. It was frustrating. It was agonizing, but it's a great game. It's an amazing game. I couldn't put it down. It was such a good game. And I finished it. It was such a good game. Spent 60 hours finishing it. It was such a good game. But it wasn't really fun. What was it about the game that made me so compelled to keep playing it, even though it was agonizing at times or frustrating at times? What was it about the game that did that? And I think it has to do with satisfaction, the reward that you get with the video game, where I'm spending hours and hours and hours working on this boss. Oh, I can't get it. I'm going to go farm some blood echoes. Okay, I got those. Okay, I'm going to level up now. Okay, I'm at level 95. Can I beat him now? Nope. Okay, level up some more. I'm at level 115. Can I beat? Nope. Okay, well, I'm level 125 now. Did I do it? Yes, I did it. Awesome. Really satisfying. It's satisfying. It's rewarding. I think that has to be a big thing, especially with narrative games. If the narrative is truly engaging and compelling, then you should feel so compelled that you want to see these characters through to their potentially bitter end or awesome, beautiful end, right? Are they going to live happily ever after, or are they going to just kind of wallow in self-dread and die? One of the reasons, like Uncharted 4, you don't know if Nate's going to live or die. They imply that he's going to die. Niel Druckmann said they weren't sure if they wanted to kill him, but they knew that they should make it seem like they could kill him or might kill him, because they have to leave that question in the gamer's mind to make them keep going. They have to feed this curiosity, and that curiosity is, I think, what's truly important in the world of gaming, especially because when you're controlling characters, you have to have some question. If you know how everything's going to go, there's no reason for you to spend 60 hours doing it. So I think that's an incredibly important factor in the world of gaming. But what Niel Druckmann gets is that a game doesn't have to be fun. What he actually said, he was asked, about the word fun. He was asked about the word fun in this interview that he gave to, I believe, Glixel, which apparently is a gaming publication, as weird as the name is. But he said, this is Niel Druckmann speaking, quote, "Fun is such an interesting word. We took it off of our focus tests. It was just a weird word that people were getting hung up on. How do you rate the dive sequence at the beginning of Uncharted 4? Is that fun? Well, there's no real challenge. There's a perceived threat where they talk about oxygen, but that's just weird narrative fluff. You can't really run out of oxygen in the sequence. But that level is important to set up how mundane Nate's life is. Just rating it on its own, 1 through 5, that was constantly the lowest rated level. But it had to be. We're not going to change that." And so he was asked, well, what word did you start using instead of fun if that didn't work for you? And he said, well, it used to be, how fun did you find this level? Now it says, overall, how would you rate this level? Just overall. And 1 is, I did not like it. And 5 is, I liked it a lot. And it becomes less about, did I have fun? Did I have an interesting challenge? And more about, did I like it? And hope people interpret that as, was I engaged? And would I recommend it? Was it important to the story? End quote. And this is a very interesting thing because he understands something very important, is that when you try to make a game consistently fun throughout the entire experience, you're going to have gamers sort of suspending their disbelief, and some elements of the narrative are going to fall by the wayside. Now, a game like Super Meat Boy don't really need a strong narrative. What we're talking about here is strictly narratives, right? We're not talking about something where you're just grinding and platforming or whatever. These are specifically to narrative type games. But he understands something in storytelling where it doesn't necessarily have to be a fun or fulfilling experience in and of itself if you're setting up something for the future. Because if you build a huge chunk of the game where it's agonizing and frustrating for that payoff in the end, where you see how lame and mundane Nate's life is, and then all of a sudden it pays off when he starts exploring, and all of a sudden you're climbing up a bell tower and a massive bell collapses down to the ground, that is rewarding because you sacrifice those earlier moments for those later moments. And I think that's what you have to understand, is that there's a lot more to this than simply like, this level wasn't fun, so we got to add something unique and quirky and fun to it. No, you got to be willing to make sacrifices for the general good of the game. And the more I read into Niel Druckmann's creative process, as they say, the more I realized this guy has some sort of weird grasp on what engages people. And it's not something you see really in many other places in the gaming industry. Lord knows Todd Howard does not know really what this hook is. He knows other hooks that are incredibly important. That's why Skyrim was so successful. That's why Oblivion worked so well. But when he's tried to play the Niel Druckmann game, the storytelling game, you ended up with Fallout 4, which he self-admitted was his worst work. So there's something that Niel Druckmann gets as a novice game director. The Last of Us was his first full-fledged attempt from start to finish to create a story, to create a world, and see it through. And it blew everyone away. He understands something about this. I think it's his maturity to understand that it's not, first of all, not only about him. Secondly, it's not necessarily about fun all the time. You have to be willing to sacrifice those sorts of feelings of fun and this makes me happy and this is so lighthearted. But he's willing to sacrifice it. Other people that sort of get this hook, maybe you could say Hideo Kojima. He seems to get this, obviously, if he can put out a trailer of Norman Reedus naked holding a baby and get the internet to get addicted to it and talk about it for months on end, even though it's still probably years out. Clearly, you've either done something very right or very wrong. And I think it's probably on the very right side for Hideo Kojima. But Niel Druckmann gets something in this, and I can't wait to see how this follows through. Now, I've criticized Niel Druckmann in the past. He's by no means the perfect prodigy of gaming, right? Of narrative gaming. He's got issues. And I've addressed them in the past. I've expressed my feelings towards some of his positions. I think the fact that he sort of ham-fists female characters or LGBT characters into games. I'm all for representation and equal representation in games. But when you're making half your cast lesbian and trans and gay and all that, when they make up like 2.3% of the population of the planet Earth, I don't know, it can suspend the disbelief a little bit, and especially when you make that the main feature of their character, you're sacrificing some things just to get a political point of view across, which is exactly what this seems to point against, what the rest of his philosophy seems to point against. And we saw it with Nadine. He got a ton of crap for Nadine because he cast a non-black actress in the role of a black character. She was a little milk chocolatey, but she wasn't chocolate. And he got a ton of crap for it, and he stood by her. He said she did a great job. She portrayed the character as I wanted her to do, and as she thought she could do. She did an amazing job, and I'm going to stand by her. And they stood down because he stood by his work, by his art. And I think so, in general, I think his good acts and good deeds outweigh his sins. And I cannot wait for The Last of Us Part 2. I cannot wait for that game. The hype level is so high. The expectations are so high. It's going to be very hard for him to top The Last of Us and to continue the story on in a way that's going to satisfy the public. I'm worried about that. I'm going to try not to get hyped about it, which we're going to talk about in the next segment. Got to take a quick little time out. We'll be right back, and we're going to talk about hype in video games. See you soon. And we're back. Hype in video games is a weird thing. I've gotten a lot of comments in the past couple weeks because I'm very excited about The Last of Us 2. Especially I'm excited about the new Assassin's Creed game that's coming out with Assassin's Creed Empire, and how it might be set in Egypt, which I've been waiting for an Assassin's Creed game set in Egypt for ever. And so I'm very excited about these games, and I express it through videos that I make where I try to encourage other people to be excited, to look forward to it, because then it hopefully will encourage developers to live up to the hype. But I do get the criticism that some people levy, which is that when you're hyped up about a game, you can get very disappointed because your expectations go so far beyond what reason would suggest that it can actually be damning and ruin the experience overall. Look at No Man's Sky. Expectations were way out of left field, and as a result, the game suffered because people got a, frankly, not very good game, maybe worth $10 on Steam as a greenlight game or something, or as an early access game, but really their expectations were blown so far out of proportion that it ruined the game. And I was thinking about this, and I think with that example, clearly the difference would be that we're talking about a developer who is lying to its public, to its consumer base. They were saying that the game was going to turn out one way, and we were going to get these features in the game, and it was going to be great, and we were going to be able to do this, this, and this, hang out with other players, but the odds weren't great. But they lied. They just outright lied. It wasn't true, and they suffered accordingly, right? But with Assassin's Creed Empire, with God of War, with The Last of Us Part 2, we're talking about games that consumers are just excited about because they're excited about it, right? We're not talking necessarily about the developers lying to the public. Now, Ubisoft is known for this. They will lie to their consumers and customers if they feel like they need to, but it's not anywhere near as common as people would suggest. People do not like Ubisoft. It's been made abundantly clear to me after making a video talking about my excitement for a future Ubisoft game. People saying, like, my favorite comment on that video was just 5 reasons not to be excited for the new Assassin's Creed game. And it was just Ubisoft, 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 and Ubisoft, which is fair. They've ruined a lot of crap. They've ruined a lot of games that we were super excited about, and they lied to us. They showed amazing graphics at E3, and then they downgraded it so that it could run, and it ruined a lot of games for people because they were so excited about it. And I think managing expectations is important. I covered Fallout 4 for 4 months before the game was even announced to be in existence. 4 months. More like 6 months, but those were off and on, random videos here and there, but really heavily for 4 months. That's what got this channel going and started. I think I gained my first 1,500 subscribers in that time, and I was so excited about that game. It was like I was awaiting the second coming that was going to be, or more like the fourth coming, I guess. And when it finally arrived, I said, oh, this is great. This is, oh, okay. Well, I predicted that part of the story. Oh, I can't do this. So that's great. Oh, more glitches. That's amazing. Okay. Oh, nope. Can't do that. Nope. Oh, I can't kill whoever I want. Oh, that's great. Freedom of choice in the game world, right? Todd Howard said that. Oh, well, I guess he doesn't believe it anymore. And I continue. Ruined the game. It ruined the game for me. The hype, my expectations were so high, and it wasn't just me. A lot of people didn't enjoy the game, but in general, my expectations were so high. I was expecting to outdo everything that they had done previously, and it turned out to be a ham-fisted attempt at something that they weren't able to do with a poor writing staff that shouldn't be allowed to write a narrative story. You can go back and look at my video. I predicted the story, including the plot twist. I predicted that story like 3 months before the game was announced to be in existence. Before the game was even confirmed to be showing at E3 for the first time, I predicted the story and the plot twist. That's not because I'm psychic. That's because their writing is crap. I'm not a good writer, and I was able to predict it accurately. And there's proof of it on the channel that I predicted it accurately. And it just blows my mind that we're still dealing with people arguing that it was this amazing narrative story. It wasn't. I'm sorry, it wasn't. I'm not sorry. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not sorry. It was not good. Nonetheless, hype has ruined a lot of games. It's ruined games for me. It's ruined games for you. It's ruined games for all of us. Does that mean we shouldn't be excited about games? Does that mean that we should neuter ourselves before the gaming gods and just pretend like everything's fine and dandy and nothing will ever go wrong? No, I don't think so. We can be excited as long as the developers don't lie to us and we keep them honest and punish them when they do, as lots of people did with No Man's Sky. Thank you, Steam refunds, costing the company so much money. Or Batman Arkham Knight. Game released on PC, absolute rubbish. Couldn't run, frame rate locks and caps all over the place. They punished them by returning the game instantly. They lost a bunch of money because Steam keeps their cut. The developer has to make it up. It's wonderful. It's capitalism, punishing them. It's great. I love it. But as long as you can manage your expectations and look at things with a skeptical eye, you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay if you can do that. Lots of people can't. Okay? Lots of people, for instance, by far the most vitriolic group on the internet that I've ever encountered, by far, not the No Man's Sky people. Oh. Apparently, something has uploaded. Not the No Man's Sky people. No, Star Citizen. Star Citizen fans are the most mind-blowingly... I get it. I understand why they are so sensitive to criticisms against their game. I understand it. They've put a lot of money into it. Some people, one person who was commenting said he put $6,000 into into Star Citizen, buying some sort of like super ship thing that he could fly around in when the game eventually comes out. Okay, it's your money. Spend it as you will. But my concern as a skeptical person is that it looks a lot like a Ponzi scheme. And I said that. I said it looks like, technically, according to their documents and everything that you agree to when you give them money, they are technically allowed to take that money and run. They're technically allowed to take your money, all $139 million that they've raised, to spend it on salaries and pensions and retirement stuff and all that. They have the right to do that and not deliver a final product. They can do that. And I said, because of that, I'm not going to give them money until I get a game in return. I get it's playable still. No. You have some cool tech demos that are available to some people. It's not like that. Oh my gosh. Star Citizen people, they can, I've received tons of death threats from them. It's dangerous. Be careful when criticizing Star Citizen. Gotta take a quick break. I'll be right back. And we're back. Sorry for that awkward break. The battery on the camera actually was about to die, so I figured instead of there being a sharp cutoff, I would just give a quick outro and then we'd come back in. Whatever I was saying, yes, Star Citizen fans are incredibly vitriolic and very defensive. Does that mean they're all like that? No, but the few of you that are like that are incredibly like that. So much so that I've received, I think it was 17 death threats last I checked, over criticizing and saying that Star Citizen could potentially be a Ponzi scheme. Do I think it is? No. I think it's going to be a great game. I think that they just are covering their bases as they should. And as a result, they open themselves up to these types of criticisms. With a business model that's completely based on donations from random people and with a long development cycle, it's going to happen. But yeah, no, I think it's going to be a good game. Disclaimer. But seriously, you guys grow up. Like, wow. But, whatever I was saying, hype for games is a trade-off. If you're hyped for a game, you have something to look forward to. The game could pay off. The game could be the most incredible thing you've ever touched in your life. Better than that first boob. Or whatever. It could be amazing. It could be so great. You think about it for months on end. But it could also be like really saggy and really gross, maybe even wrinkly. Maybe it's some sort of elderly person, right? This analogy isn't working for you. I get it. I'm sorry. I'll move on. If there's, I don't know. It's late. I think it just hit midnight, but it has a payoff. If you're hyped for a game and it turns out to be great, you're going to be so ecstatic. It's going to be amazing and it's going to blow you away. You're going to be so happy about it. But if it doesn't live up to your enormous hype, then it has the potential to just spoil it. People were so excited for The Last Guardian, and The Last Guardian, it's not really my cup of tea, but some people have been waiting for it for years and years and years. They get it, and now that they've got it, they're sitting there saying, it's okay. It's okay. It's not great. But it's a fun game. It's good. I like the characters and whatever. But that's the thing, is it's a trade-off. So I think it's okay to be hyped for a game. You just can't have this out of the ballpark hype like I had for Fallout 4. That's my own fault. I'm an idiot. That explains it, right? But all of that aside, the last thing that I want to just discuss before we go is just the game that I've played, and I think we'll probably talk about this every week. The game I've played over the week and the game I recommend that you try if you have not already tried it. I've already talked about it in this video, but it's actually Bloodborne. I just finished the main campaign of Bloodborne, the first game, or first mode, I guess. First run through. That's what I was looking for. Took me 60 hours. 60.7, I believe. And it was hard fought. It was very hard fought. I got caught on multiple events, multiple fights. The last boss fight, I didn't do the complicated ending where you need like 3 umbilical cords of the gods and everything. I did the other one, no spoilers, but the last boss fight took me probably from the time I first attempted it to the time where I finished it and beat him, probably like 7 hours. Not doing it over and over again. I was going out farming blood echoes, leveling up, and doing stuff like that. But it was hard fought. But it's so satisfying. I've bragged about it a lot. Probably in this one episode already, I've bragged about it 1,000 times. And it's because it's weirdly satisfying. Like we were talking about earlier, the fun satisfaction trade-off, it's incredible. And it's well known in the Souls games. That's why these games have this weird sort of community where you pull it off, you win the game, you beat the boss, you do whatever. You feel so satisfied after that you're bragging to everyone around you that you've done, that you finished the game and that you finished the DLC. It gets you this weird cred in the gaming community when you're like, yeah, I finished Bloodborne and the DLC. And, I beat Dark Souls 2 and 3. And, I'm pretty good. Have you ever, been intimate with a woman? No, not really, but I beat Bloodborne. Like, that's what we're dealing with. But, like, Bloodborne, it's such a wonderful game. It's not for everybody. I do recognize that. And even the game's director, Miyazaki whatever. I don't remember his name. I think it's Miyazaki. He said that the game's not for everybody, and it shouldn't be for everybody. He wants to filter out the weak players because it should be a more exclusive thing. But once you get past that first hurdle and you figure it out, it's weird. Something clicks. Most other games, you just play them. But when something clicks, it just makes sense. And you can put 60 hours into it and it's no problem. It's just flying by. You don't even think about quitting it and playing something else. You're like, oh, well, I got my ass handed to me. Let's go back in there. Let's try it again. It's amazing. It's weird. I can't explain it, but if you haven't played this game yet and you have a PS4, you're doing yourself a huge disservice. If you don't have a PS4 and are looking for something to play, my PC recommendation for this week is actually Hearts of Iron 4. Came out in June, I believe. It's a beautiful game. It's so much fun. It is a World War II era simulator real-time strategy game. It is so much fun. I actually put together a little video. I guess you can click up on the card wherever it's going to end up being, I think up here, where you can check that video out. Played it with some friends. We had a good time. So much fun. Long learning curve of about 8 hours, but once you figure it out, it's a blast. You'll waste your entire life on it. It's so much fun. If you have a game that you're playing, let me know with a little tag, hashtag game of the week down in the comment section below so I can see what you guys are playing. Maybe you're playing something that I should play, and I'll check it out if you recommend it to me. Hashtag game of the week in the comment section down below. It'll also let me know that you made it to the end of the video, which shows that you're either a huge fan and a scholar and a saint, or you are weirdly masochistic and want to subject yourself to like 45 minutes of Lukey Poo. But nonetheless, thank you for watching. If you like this, hit that like button. If you didn't, let me know why down in the comment section below. This was the first episode, so really we're just experimenting at this point. But yeah, let me know what you thought down in the comment section below. I will read them all. I love each and every single one of you more than you could possibly know. And I'll speak to you guys very, very soon. Peace out, loves you, bye.